All right, welcome back, everyone. Got an exciting new addition to the lineup. A little bit of an update on the MTS 275. So this is the new Lightning MTS 275P. So it is now coming with MIG single pulse. That's a synergic single pulse. So we do have power set on that. So we just wanted to do a real quick run through this machine because it is full feature AC/DC high frequency. It's now high voltage, which is the solid state inverter, not the old points. So it's high voltage, high frequency, AC/DC TIG, MIG, and then it has single pulse MIG as well as stick mode so it's got everything. It's got everything other than the plasma. So we've made some serious programming changes to this. We've made the menu a lot easier to use versus the old style case. So we've gone to like the Cyclone style case. So if you're used to the Cyclone, this machine has sort of a similar menu. So we're trying to get that continuity. Whereas if you get a Cyclone and you get one of the other machines, it's going to have the same style of menu for the LCD display. So we can go ahead and get started. We're going to start on the argon mixes and then go through like C100, we've got aluminum, stainless steel, single pulse. We've got flux cord with gas, flux cord without gas. We've got AC TIG, DC TIG, and DC stick. So there's a lot to run through. We did update the program save menu to where you can custom name your save program. So we'll show you how to do that on this as well. So not a whole lot of welding action for this one, but we do get a lot of questions about the changes to the new 275. So we wanted to run through, show you guys all the features of it, and have you better understand the machine if you're deciding to get one. So let's get over to the machine. We'll get an up close view on the display and we'll get started running through it. All right, so now we're over here at the display. We'll zoom in and take a little bit closer look. So we're starting with our argon mixes. So standard C25. We've got it right now in metric. So we can come down here. Since I don't do metric, you can change it in imperial inches per minute. So standard MIG machine, if you're used to the Cyclones, it's the same exact display as the Cyclone. So you have your ending and starting wire feed speed. Of course, post-flow, pre-flow, have our downslope and upslope if you're using like 4T operations, so you can get a hot start. You can also get a crater fill. We have our burn back, inductance, spot welding, which can also be a stitch timer. And then you can set your wire diameter, which when you go to power set, that'll transfer over into power set. So you're already set up there. For remote, you have 2T and 4T. You can come down to your torch. Right now we've got it set on standard, which is your standard MIG gun. We do have the option for spool and push pull. So this is spool and push pull ready. It does have the MTS style plug, so not the old 2-pin. So this machine on the new spool and push pull guns, there's a dial to adjust your wire speed. So this machine will adjust the wire speed from the gun now. Instead of having to go back to the machine, adjust your wire speed, then go back to work. You'll be able to do that on the dial on the new guns. One unique feature with this machine, now that we're on pull, it's not going to accept my input there. So let me go back, change that to standard. So this machine, it will tell you when you're getting into spray mode. So if we go up in voltage, so now everything's turned yellow. So that's telling us that we're going from like a C25 mix, we're getting into spray transfer, and we need to switch to like C10, 98.2, a gas more appropriate for spray transfer. So it's a nice reminder that, hey, maybe we're getting outside of the limits of our wire, or we're getting outside the limits of our gas. So just a nice reminder there that we are getting into spray transfer. Turn this down to something a little more reasonable. So you see as we go down in voltage, we go back to white. Again, that's telling us we're going back into short circuit. So a C25 mix would be appropriate for that. Of course, we have power set. So you can put in your wire size, your wire type, as well as your material thickness. The machine will spit out a good even number for you, a good starting point. There's still flexibility up and down within that, but for a beginner welder or a material maybe you haven't worked with, It'll give you a good starting point from there. So let's go over to, we do also on this, we have an easy run-in. So the easy run-in, what that's going to do, it's going to take your set wire feed speed and take a percentage of that and slow it down until the arc starts. So a lot of times with MIG, you'll get a cold start where you get a pop, 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 and then it starts. The easy run-in will eliminate that and give you a smoother, hotter start without that popping and jerking. So that can be a really helpful feature, something you can kind of just leave on, and it kind of runs in the background. You don't even have to adjust anything. It just kind of, the machine does it on its own. We do have an automatic feed, so when you're spooling up a new spool, you can hit your feed. It'll just run cold, so there's no, the wire isn't energized, it's just running the wire, and that'll lock on. So if you have a longer lead, like let's say a long push-pull gun, you hit that feed button, and it'll just keep running until you hit it again, so you don't have to sit there and hold it and try to hold the gun. So really helpful feature. Of course, it's always got purge, so you can purge your gas when you're switching functions as well. So let's go to the C100 mix. It's going to look identical to the argon mix, and a lot of what this is for when you go into power set mode, the machine knows which gas you're running and can calibrate itself appropriately for the gas. So there is a slight variance in your voltage and your wire feed speed between the gases. So that's really what that function is for. If you were running in manual mode, the machine won't know the difference. It won't do anything different in manual mode. It's really to calibrate it for the gas when you go to power set. So nothing really new to go over here. We go to the aluminum side now. Go ahead and take off power set. So this is standard MIG on aluminum. So if you're running really hot, like let's say you're running some 3/8 or 1/2 inch aluminum plate, typically is going to be the mode you want to be in for really heavy stuff. It's super hot, there's no pulse, so it's turn and burn. Again, it's going to look exactly the same in the manual mode between your argon mixes and your 100% C100. So it's just to calibrate it for when you go to power set. Where we get a little bit different, well, stainless steel, same thing. It's just calibrating the machine for power set if you go there. It's not going to change the operation of the machine in manual mode. Where we do get some difference is on pulse. So when we go to single pulse, excuse me, when we go to single pulse, like right now we're set up for aluminum, it's going to tell us we want 100% argon. We can come down here and change our wire type. So we have steel wire type, it changes our gas mix. Right here showing 90-10, because in pulse, we're going to be in spray mode. So we need to run a gas that can support being in spray transfer. So it's going to recommend 90-10 as standard. But with that pulse, we have our arc trim, and a lot of people misunderstand this arc trim. Arc trim adjusts your arc length. So for pulse, and spray, you're going to be about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch arc length back from the material. What that arc trim does is it adjusts where the wire burn-off point is between the tip of the gun and the material. So if you want that arc length to come back, it's running a little bit cold, you go positive arc trim and it'll suck your arc length positive, it'll go longer arc length. You go negative, it'll bring that wire closer to the material, it'll run a little bit cooler. So arc trim's a really misunderstood feature. It's not a set voltage. It's based off your amperage, which is your wire feed speed. And the machine is setting an appropriate rough voltage, and then you're using that trim to adjust your arc length. So that's really what it is. That's why it's called arc trim, because it's trimming where our arc length is. So, and we've got power set modes on both steel and aluminum for this. Moving on from there, we have basically our dual shield setting. So this machine then, it's calibrating everything to run dual shield flux core. So your power set mode, everything like that, that's what the calibration is for. And then, of course, we have flux core mode. something new we've added to a lot of the machines. A lot of people have asked for a specific flux core mode. Obviously, that would then turn off your gas solenoid in the machine. So if you do have gas hooked up to it, it's not going to fire the gas solenoid. But it is meant for pure flux core. A lot of people like running it still. I think it's pretty nasty, but it does have its purpose, especially if you're working outside. From there, we get into my favorite, AC TIG. And on this machine, we've got, of course, we've got our start amps, post flow, pre-flow, and you've got your pedal mode and what type of start you want, whether it's a live lift, or high voltage. On our other side, we have our pulse on and off, so we can turn that on. Of course, it has our pulse frequency, pulse time on, pulse amps, and we've got advanced AC pulse, which we've got a video on from a couple years ago showing the advanced AC pulse, which is a mix between DC electrode negative and an AC waveform, and we pulse between the two. And what that does, it can make a machine like this, a 275 amp machine, weld aluminum more like a 350, 400 amp machine without having to use helium. So if you do get into a situation where you're maybe into some material thickness that's technically above the 275 amp range, which would be about 3/8 and up, you can use that advanced AC pulse, still get the job done, still get good results, but not have to spend $600 a bottle on helium. So let's go ahead, we'll turn that pulse back off. We come down, of course we have a spot timer. We have our AC frequency, which on this machine will go up to 250 hertz. We then have our balance adjustment. And then we still have waveform adjust. So we've got advanced square, triangle, soft square, sine. So you've got your 4 standard waveforms for aluminum. It's not a split waveform like the Typhoon, but it's an overall, electrode negative and electrode positive waveform adjustment. So you can really tailor your AC arc to what you're doing. And again, I think I've got several videos explaining the differences in waveforms and in frequency. So if that is new to you, we've got a whole video series on all the AC adjustments as well that you can take a look at. Of course, then we go to DC TIG, pretty simple. Not a whole lot of frills there. We do have, of course, start amps, post flow, pre-flow. We have our remote settings. So if you want to use 2T, 4T, 2T with the finger switch, 4T with the finger switch, or pedal mode. So we've got all the options there. Of course, we have our start as well, HV start, live lift, all the start options available. And then again, we also have our pulse. And on this machine now with the update, we also have the DC pulse waveform selection. So you can have a standard square wave pulse, which is straight up, straight down. We've got our sine wave, which kind of rolls in to your peaks and valleys on your amperage. And then we have a triangle where it's a very linear up and down. So you don't get that hard off on. It'll roll into it more like you're doing a pedal pulse where it rolls the amperage in and out. So it makes this pulse a little bit smoother. So it'll definitely a feature on most multi-process machines that you're not going to find between the advanced AC pulse, the waveform selection, and the DC TIG pulse waveform selection. So really feature packed on the TIG side on this unit. And then of course, DC stick, super standard there. You've got all your rod types. So you do want to run it, if you are going to run 60-10, you do want to run it in 60-10 mode. What that does is it helps bump up the inductance, so it makes it run 60-10 a lot smoother. That's where you get a lot of your arc cutting out. If your arc's cutting out, you want to make sure that you're on 60-10 mode. More than likely you're not. But of course we've got the anti-stick, which will keep you, when you stick a rod, it'll keep it from just burning the rod and keeping the amperage pour into it. That way it'll snap off easy. Have our voltage reduction, which will, in tight quarters or wet environments, that'll help reduce the OCV to keep you from being shocked. We do also have the remote selection for sticks. So like the other Cyclone machines, and even like the Typhoon is where we started it, where you can actually run a foot pedal on stick mode. So you have full amperage control via your foot pedal. So not something that's super common. I have had a couple instances where it was pretty handy. welding up some dump truck frames that the fitment was really bad on some gusset plates we were putting on, and having that remote pedal was actually pretty handy. Even when we first started doing, I thought, you know, nobody's really going to use this. It's kind of a weird function, but field testing the machines, I actually found a pretty decent use for it. So it's not something you're going to use every day. You might not use it ever, but when you do need it, it is actually pretty handy. Of course, then as we move from rod type, we've got our hot start timing, and our arc force. So everything you'd ever want on the stick side, basically everything you'd ever want on the AC and DC TIG side, single pulse with power set, and then all your different MIG modes between your standard argon mixes, your C100, your stainless steel, flux core, dual shield gas, flux core with gas, and then standard flux core. So super feature packed machine. We could make, you know, several hour-long videos on this unit, which we won't be going quite that long on each of them, but we're going to be going through each process here pretty soon. Trying to find some little projects and stuff to work on using the new Lightning MTS 275 Pulse. So if you're looking for a real good unit for heavy shop use, that's a 275 amp machine. Pretty much nothing you can't build with this machine using between stick and MIG, but also super powerful on the TIG side. 275 amps on AC, that'll get you 3/8 aluminum. So pretty much nothing you'll come across that you can't handle with the MTS 275. So super powerful. If you're looking for a big machine, check out the MTS 275. It's a do-all. So hope you guys enjoy it. We'll be having more videos come out with this machine real soon. Till then, have a good one. We'll see you guys soon.